much time does a memoir typically span? Don't answer.
It's more of a slice, isn't it? It's more of a slice.
Correct. Chips suggest the answer is a season. A season. It's not a recounting of an entire life. It's the story of an author in a season of time. A season of time. And that's important because most people don't want to start at, I was born in so-and-so state, and then we moved here and there. And it's kind of like, I brought this up before. When you watch a movie on television, do they drop you right in the action? That's normally what happens in a movie, is something's happening. It's riveting, it's engaging, it's like an open hook of a story. Bam, you're right there and you go, oh my gosh, and you don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes it'll say on the screen on a movie 3 days prior, right? Or 1 month ago, and then you get back to that beginning later on. So in other words, engage your readers, engage them, don't let them go through the whole stuff that's not pertinent. It's a season of time. Okay, so here where I am. So anyway, books, memoir, truth. Memoir is all truth. Oh yeah, let's do this. A memoir promises truth, right? Memoir generally refers to longer works of nonfiction written from the perspective of the author. If you're writing a book about an experience, it's a memoir. A collection of interrelated personal essays may constitute a memoir. Okay, now let's see if there's more I want to say on that. Oh yeah, here we go. Not sure what to call your story? If you're not sure whether or not your book is a novel or a memoir, you can always call your project a story inspired by real life events. A story inspired by real life events. Or, I'll repeat that one more time. A story inspired by real life events. Have you ever watched a movie and it says inspired by a true story? Don't you love that? I love that. It's like, oh, there's truth in there. It's pretty cool because then I kind of pay more attention. Doesn't mean it's all entirely true, but it's inspired by real life events. Or you can call it a work loosely based on my life. A work loosely based on my life. A work loosely based on my life. If a literary agent or editor is interested in your project because you've got a strong story and a unique voice, then it's likely that he or she will be happy to talk with you about the most appropriate way to publish or pitch it. The moral, always be honest. If parts of your story are fabricated, say so. If you've changed nothing but names, say that as well. As long as you're being honest, you have nothing to worry about. Okay, Charlie Bear is a memoir. So it's nonfiction. It's true. Everything that I wrote about happened. So it is a memoir. But let me see if I can find one. Well, come on. There we go. Charlie talks in the book. Charlie, every 5 or 6 chapters, he talks. So it's in his voice, in italics, with his picture on top of what he's sharing. Not real long. It's just a page and a quarter. But that happens throughout the book. So I said to my agent, how can you call that true when Charlie doesn't really talk? And I made up his voice and he said, don't worry about it. The reader will understand. The rest of the book is true memoir. Okay. So do the lines blur? Yeah. But as long as the agent is upfront about it, the publishing houses are okay with it, then that's what you go with. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes. Okay. So we are down to here. Nonfiction and memoir must have all the elements: conflict, drama, characters, lots of tension. So if you're adding in things that aren't really true into a story, then it becomes fiction. Then it's a novel based on a true story. Okay. And those are fine. Those are fine. Just, I was writing a book about my first dog, Rex, and I wanted to do so much more with it than the actual truth, because I just wanted to add characters and different experiences for me and Rex, and different ways that we could do things to engage him as a dog, because he had so much spunk. So I decided to write it as a novel. I added in characters, I put in different things, and I beefed it up that way. But now it's a novel based on some true experiences with my dog Rex. Okay, so that can help you too. So we talked about sticking to the facts, the truth, if it's memoir. And then I showed you Charlie Bear. So before we, okay, we got that, good. We're going to talk about money in publishing books and in putting books out there. Before we do that, no, let's do this first, and then we're going to ask the self-publishing people. Infinity Publishing, which is a self-publishing company. I did this book with them. So I had to create it all, everything. And I had to set it all up and all that. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm just going to be honest with you. I make about $1.55 per book when it sells on Amazon. Over time, I've sold just about 330 units of the book online or in the back of the room. So I've made a little over $500 on that. The Writing True Stories book, self-help, published by me on CreateSpace. I make about $3.34 per book. And Amazon pays me right into my checking account. I love it. It's nice. It's a little stream of income. So Inspiring Voices did Charlie Bear. And they pay me a royalty. It's not much, sad to say. Let's see if I can figure out where. About $3. Okay, about $3 a book. Charlie Bear on Guidepost Company paid me a nice advance, and then they still pay me a royalty as well. Now, depending on who sells, through Amazon, if it's Amazon or the book is sold through Barnes and Noble or through Lightning Source or even overseas in Germany, like a Nook ebook sale, I make $1. Google ebook 94 cents, Amazon $2.28. So I wanted to be honest with you and tell you, and maybe the girls who are going to talk about self-publishing have a better way to make money than I do. It's been years since I put these up on CreateSpace, but that's what I make. And I wanted to be just totally honest on how that goes. Now we're going to talk about this just a little bit before we ask someone to share. So CreateSpace or any self-publishing you take on, used to be quite a bit of stigmas, right? Associated with self-publishing a book.
Right.
They often were thought of as having poor writing, little editing, sloppy proofreading, bad covers. All of that screamed self-published. And there's ways that you can not have people kind of scream that out at you. And we're going to talk about that. CreateSpace has, I got this from a long time ago, an article called 10 Tips for Self-Publishing Print Books on CreateSpace. And I'll just read the 10 and then we'll go from there. They want you to plan your book. What size, what are the images? Do you have an ISBN? You know, that's that little barcode on the back somewhere. Do you need professional services? Number 2, get your information together before you start. Like, what's the title? Author biography. What category are you going to put it in? Keywords. Number 3 was pick a category for your book. And you got to figure that out. Is it a romance historical? Is it a thriller? Is it self-help? What is it? 4, decide on keywords. What is going to get people to notice your book? Or if they type in something, what will your book pop up? Number 5, what should you charge for your book? That's a tricky one.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Amazon CreateSpace helps you with that. Or you can look at other books that are like yours and see what they're charging. 6, choose an industry standard size for your book. You don't want to go something like totally weird, you know, like different size than a normal book is. Now, Inspiring Voices, it's weird. It's smaller. So is the Charlie Bear book. It's smaller. So I don't know what happened with this one, why it got a little bit bigger. But it is. That was my first book on CreateSpace, so it probably was me. 7, format. Your formatting needs to be within their guidelines. So formatting. This is next one is near and dear to my heart. Number 8, get your cover professionally designed. Covers are so important. And you know why they're so important? Think of your cover as 1 inch by 1 inch on the computer screen. It's got to capture people's attention in color, in design, in a picture, in the title. I went back and forth with the guy who helped me with my cover because it is that important. So get it professionally done. 9, make sure you have print resolution images. I don't think they can be like cell phone pictures. I'm not sure. But they have to be at least 300 DPI. 10, submit a PDF. And if you're not sure what a PDF is, because I'm not tech savvy, I use the same guy that designed my cover. I used the same guy and paid him a fee to take everything that I gave him, create it in a PDF, publish it on CreateSpace for me, because I didn't want to do it. So that's up to you. Number 11, order 2 proofs of the book. Order the proofs on CreateSpace. Look at them very carefully before you tell your person or you yourself, put it up for print publication. Read it with a fine-tooth comb. So many errors come in, or like the page will stop and then it continues on the next page and it's halfway blank. All kinds of weird, funky things happen. So make sure you get copies of the book ahead of time and read them thoroughly. Okay, so this was just that stuff. Now, let's ask someone who of our self-publishing people, Barb, Nikki, Mel, or Molly, want to talk about CreateSpace. Raise your hand. Barb? Okay, you got it. Unmute and go ahead.
I've done about probably 25 to 30 books on CreateSpace. God's led me into a ministry to missionaries and to pastors, to do their books for them. You can learn it. It's not easy. It's real frustrating at first, but once you've got it, you've got it. And you can use it to minister. I have my biz book. I brought it to a lot of publishers. Everybody said it's strong writing, but it didn't get published. And so the more I talked with Marlene, she kept saying, Barbie, I love this story. You have to get it out there. It ministers to hurting women. And so I said, okay, you know what? I want to be big published. I just want that for myself. But I realized it was a value thing, a self-value. that I wanted to be able to tell people I was traditionally published. And so I sacrificed that and gave that to the Lord and asked him to give it back sometime. But I self-published. I paid a lot for a good, strong edit. And it was so awesome. I learned so much. It was like taking a college course. I took it, I guess it's okay to say, I took it from Nancy Rue, and she filled it with tips. And honestly, you guys, it sounds like a lot of money, but after I changed it all, I sent it back to her and paid $400 again, to have her go through it again and go even deeper. You may want to do that, you may not, but definitely when I publish for people, I require that they will get a final edit after I've got it all formatted and everything, because my eyes get tired of seeing the same words. And I also require that they buy their cover. So that's so super important. One other thing I want to say is that you can self-publishing, you can reach a niche that you can't because it's not large enough. And just I do all my writing before COVID 5 nights a week at IHOP, and I know all the servers. I'm there in the daytime, I'm there at 2 a.m. And I wanted to give something to them, so I wrote a book of devotionals on Christmas carols. And then I published it. Cost me $5 to buy a copy of it, or I think it was $3 for me to buy a copy. And I bought 50 of them and brought it up there. Guess what? In that book, at the end, there was a big Christmas tree with all the things God offers us, and a scripture to go with it on the other side, and a prayer to ask Jesus into their heart. I bought 50 copies. I kept going there before Christmas. They all had seen me working on it and saw the pictures I was making, and autographed it. And it was a ministry. And I know of at least 2 people that came to the Lord because of it. So I really, really promote indie publishing.
Awesome. Thank you.
One more thing, real quick.
Sure.
Okay, so when you're talking about writing your stories, Craig Bubeck used to be, or maybe still is, with Cook. Years and years ago, I had my Lord Get Your Needle, I'm Falling Apart at the Seams. It was a chronic strain, the emotional strain of chronic pain. I showed it to him and he said, Barbie, this is a nice book, but honestly, who besides your own family and friends would plunk down $20 for your story? Who really cares? You're nobody. And I just sat there, and it was like one of my first conferences, and I'm like, gosh, you're mean. But it changed my life because we talked about what he meant. And I want you to hear this, that when you write devotionals, when you write Bible studies, when you write the short stories, so many times we write our story and then we add a little bit of reader takeaway at the end. It shouldn't be that. It's just like what BJ said. You first of all, you say, what is the felt need? What do I want to minister to right now? And then you start your article or book out by addressing that and connecting emotionally with the reader. So you're talking to the reader about their problem, their issue, their struggle. And then once you do that, you talk about it and you connect with them emotionally, then you use your experience to say, let me tell you what God did for me. And so your experience is more of the tag on at the end. And that just, wow, that changed everything I've ever written.
Barb, those are such great tips. Weren't those great, you guys? I loved your sharing. I loved everything you said. And somebody in the chat was saying, I keep calling it Create Space. It's actually KDP now.
Yeah.
Kindle Direct Publishing. But it's not just Kindles. I mean, you can make your book available on print as well. So I kind of think that's kind of confusing. But thank you, Barb. That was so good. So let's go to Nikki or Mel or Molly. Which one of you are ready and would like to share? Okay, Molly.
Good morning.
Morning.
I also used Kindle Direct Publishing, and I have an ebook on Amazon. I don't have it in print, but it's a Bible study on creativity. It's called Spark. And when I was going through the process, I also used a professional editor. I paid the money for that because I felt like that was important. And I also sent my book to, I think it was Croatia. I used the Fiverr company, Fiverr, to format it for ebook publication. And it cost like $5 for her to format it for me. I don't know why it was so cheap, but it was awesome. And then when you publish an ebook on KDP, you publish it for free. And yeah, so I haven't made a lot of money, but it's fun to get a little bit here and there for people who have picked up the Bible study.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Molly.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, Mel or Nikki, are you around? Mel or Nikki? Okay, Nikki.
Yeah, I am the same with Molly, and I think it's Barb. I also went ultimately with CreateSpace because my book was copyrighted in 2014.
Okay.
And then, so now it's KDP. So I was not in a great place when I wrote my book. I had come out of college. I had made some poor choices, which spun me into a depression. So, but I had this assignment from college that I had done well in. And so I wanted to take that. So I went online and I found a company called MikeMott.com. And ultimately it led me to CreateSpace, which was KDP. What I loved about working with this gentleman was in Canada. It was all done through email. And so the collaboration was really exciting and was fun. So he offered packages. And I opted out of the editing aspect because it was a little pricey. He offered Illustrator, so you just chose what illustration style you liked best. Ultimately, I found that he really wasn't giving the credibility to the illustrator. They were kind of very hidden, and he was taking credit for their work, which I did not like. That was also I'm an artist, but an illustrator is a whole different genre because you have to be very consistent in, and the woman that I chose, ultimately her name was Aurora Pagano, was phenomenal. So what I would do is I would type out explicitly what I wanted those illustrations to look like verbatim. I mean, very descriptive. And when she would return with the illustrations, I was just so amazed with, it's like she saw the picture in my head. It was beautiful. And that was a lot of fun. Like I said, I was right out of college. The course that I took, writing children's stories, was a summer class. So it was all condensed in like 8 weeks. And so I was maybe a bit arrogant or had a little too much confidence in that I could just, get a book out there very quickly. And so I opted not to have it edited. So fast forward, God was good, got me through this depression. I entered a writer's group where they saw the book and said, it's way too many pages. And so it is online. It is on Amazon. It's called Pogo the Roving Pup. And again, if I could get it, the illustrations are gorgeous, gorgeous. I'll find there's Pogo there. Yeah,
he's cute.
There's a lot of wonderful qualities. I've had a chance to read it. I work at a private academy, and the kids seem to like the story. I think for little ones, by like page 40, I can see they're starting to wander. As far as launching the book or promoting the book, when you go self-publishing, my internet connection is unstable.
Oh, I hear you.
Okay. When you go to
Are you guys hearing her? Okay, good.
When you go to launch your book or promote your book, from what I understand about indie publishing, that's all on you. And I actually enjoyed it because most of us are creative, but I went online and I made, bookmarkers, and I went on to Orient Express and they were Harry Potter glasses, and I spray painted them red because the part of the story is he finds these glasses that kind of get him to where he needs to go. So I had fun with that, but because I was in this kind of dark place, I wasn't ready to go out and like read the book or go to local bookstores and say, here, you know, this is who I am. Would you support me in this? I went out, I don't even remember how I did it, but all online, I just kind of found Christian academies, and I found emails of the staff, and I was sending emails to their direct inbox. So I did get a couple people, like I'm from New Jersey. So someone from Ohio said, would you be willing to come to our school and read to like an open assembly? And I'll start to get choked up because again, I was in a very dark place. I was not going out of my home. And I thought it was kind of like, if I hadn't made these mistakes, this is what I could be doing. So I'm just believing that God's going to redeem that. But in conjunction with what the other two ladies shared, I think editing is a good investment. Have your book edited. And so what I'm kind of suspending my book right now to go work with someone to make it more concise and edited it. Then I think I'll feel more confident about promoting it.
Okay.
But I will say real quick, I will say that once through Mike Motts, he did everything. I mean, he led me to Will Roberts, who was with KDP, who formatted everything for me. So all of that work was kind of done behind the scenes. I just didn't like that this gentleman did not give credit to the illustrators that I believe he should have. And the illustrator, is no longer working for him. So there's another book I have in the works, and I might go to her privately and kind of do a little different route and kind of maybe go more indie. So I'm learning from all of
Well, those were all wonderful tips, and thank you for being honest and sharing with us what I call the good, the bad, and the ugly, because there are always things we can learn from each other, steps we've taken that we wish we could take back. So I do appreciate your honesty, Nikki, so very much, and thank you for all the tips. Mel, are you ready? You were our last self-publishing person, if you would share. Thank you. Morning.
So I spent some time praying, and I'm happy to say that the Lord gave me a different idea of how to share. I'm looking across the gallery here at who's in the room and what stages people are at. And I'll say this, there's a lot of reasons to self-publish as opposed to traditional. I have actually been traditionally published, and moving forward, have a couple of opportunities pending even now. So I've done both. So I want to talk about why you might want to consider indie publishing. One of them is if there is an immediate need for something. And you have to understand, and I'm sure BJ is going to talk about it, but in traditional publishing, this book right here, I wrote in 2000, and it was finished in 2004. It came out in October of 2007. When it did come out, it did very well. It's still selling pretty well. I'm considering a 15th anniversary edition, and I think I would probably self-publish the 15th. I don't know. The rights have been returned to me, but it's a long process. So if you have something that you feel is time sensitive, I would do it now. Now I'm going to show you, these are not promo. I'm just giving you examples. This is the latest book that I just did. I indie published it. I have an imprint of my own called Simply Write Press that is for my material or someone I help. I did that for IRS purposes. So this book, it isn't the content of the devotional is evergreen, meaning it can be time and beyond. Now I am working to potentially sell the rights of this to a publisher because there are now 3 sequels coming, it's a series. But the reason I did it was, the reason I self-published it, you can't read it, but there's a dedication in here. This book is very personal to me because the gentleman that I dedicated it to has been like a spiritual father / brother to me. And he owns a campground here in Connecticut, a Christian campground. He has been diagnosed with late stage 4 cancer. And I knew I needed to get it out because I dedicated it to him. And through the years, there have been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands probably, that he has ministered to. So I already had a platform. The day this came out, it sold more than 500 copies immediately.
Awesome.
So if it's time sensitive, and for my purposes, I wanted Chris to be able to see this book and to give him honor. So I did that. Here's another one. This one has remarkably sold relatively well. It's called Healthy Living in a Toxic World, Understanding the GMO Debate That Make Healthy Food Choices. Now you might think, like, what kind of writer is she? I don't know. I write academics. I write nonfiction that is a teaching thing. My sister and simultaneously one of my good friends that was a coworker both had a heart attack. And I was like, they had to change their lifestyle and they knew nothing about it. But I was a researcher. And so I said, I'm going to put together a tip sheet for you. The tip sheet ended up being this book, which oddly has turned into a side ministry and whatever. So there's that. This one I self-published because this is my dissertation and people wanted it. I also am looking at having this traditionally published now, but this is literally just my doctoral work on equipping families to deal with kids. So there's reasons why you might want to. Now, I don't have with me, and I wish I did, I searched my bookshelves desperately. There it might be a family legacy kind of book that you're doing. In other words, you're not looking for a huge market. So I have worked with multiple writers. I've literally helped, like Barbie, dozens of writers indie publish or self-publish, if you want to call it that, but we call it indie. So there are 2 that I can think of, and one, he has now passed away, but his name is Dennis Barlow, and his book was, I titled it The Reluctant Patient, because that's the name of the blog that he did throughout his cancer journey. He was a surgeon himself, a neurosurgeon, and he ended up passing away with cancer. So he had all of that blogged onto the Caring Bridge, which is a hospital website. And I kept reading it and I saw this book and I contacted his wife, who I had known for a long time. And I said, this is a book. You guys need this, because he was so transparent, loved the Lord. And I said, let's put it into a book. So after he passed away, so meanwhile, I downloaded all of it. I copied and pasted, and I took everything he said. So that book is his actual words, and he has a huge family, probably 200 in his legacy right now, between kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, an extended family, and extremely well-known in Northern Connecticut here, his whole legacy, and because he was a neurosurgeon forever. So you might do it for that reason. It might be that you've got a niche. Another person I helped, she was doing it with her. She wrote about her ex-husband, and it was not a pleasant topic for her personally, but she wanted to give that gift to her children and to tell them about their dad, the side they didn't see. And she created this beautiful book, and it was relatively thin, I would say under 100 pages. And she gave it to all of them for Christmas. So it might be that there's a niche like that. It might be a legacy book. You can sell, if it's something that's a wider market and you just need to get it out there now, you can sell your rights to that later on. And then there are like literally dozens of other kinds of books. This one was the dean of the college, the Bible school I was going to, she needed help, so I did that. This one is one of our missionaries, like Barbie, I did. And you can see, by the way, across here, not for sale. Somebody asked about books and why 2 proofs. because when I helped him get this book out, and he's currently based in Sweden, he's our VP of our global operations. I got 2 copies, one for me and one for my writers. I happen to have a writers group that is very gifted here. We've been together for 12 years, and there are many retired English teachers and editors in that group. So I got 2 copies, one for me because I did the content, but I think it was Barbie that said that, you know, you always want another set of eyes. And so
Yes, that's true.
I have go-to editors that have helped me with all the leadership books that our church is producing under, and they're doing it under their own names. I'm not the publisher.
Right.
But,
So,
but you want 2 copies.
yes, definitely. Mel, those were awesome tips. I want to thank you for sharing all that. That was a very good point about you might want to get something out much quicker than a royalty bigger publishing house can do. And so therefore the indie or self-publishing route is a very good one. I want to thank all 4 of you, Barb, Nikki, Mel, and Molly, for sharing with us, because it is information that you guys can take and put into your own toolbox and in your head for thinking of the future for your own books. Thank you again, ladies. I'm just going to share with you real quick what my guy that I've worked with, and this was only a few years ago. It's an email that he sent me, and I'll give you some pricing. But one thing he told me, and maybe you ladies know this or don't, but he said to have a spine in the book, to have, you know, the spine has to be at least 130 pages for a print book. So that's something important to consider. If you want to get out a book quickly, it should be long enough if you want it to have a spine. We also did numerous trials on a cover design. So that is something you want to definitely, if you can, spend money on to make happen. But he said to me, a few things I'm going to read. Doing an ebook and a print book are 2 entirely different jobs. So it's difficult. The fee for an ebook formatting and conversion from him was $200 flat. For a print layout book, it was $400. That would be a book suitable for CreateSpace, Ingram Spark, pretty much any traditional publisher. And that included an ISBN number. He also said a cover at the time for me was $450 to design a cover. So you can see how this all adds up, right? If you needed something even more in particular, that could add to the cost. His copy editing was, with proofreading, was 14 cents, 0.014 per word. I don't know what that means. Proofreading alone is 0.01, so 1 cent a word. So I happen to be a real perfectionist. I can catch things quite readily. So I just read my book. I didn't need the proofreading aspect on some of these books, but I did hire an editor for other books. So I just wanted to share those things from him. We are getting down to some tight time. So let's ask 4 or 5 minutes of open questions on self-publishing alone. So you guys raise your hand if you have any questions for anyone. Oh, you guys are taking it all in. Okay, you don't have any questions right now on self-publishing. Yes, Julie. And then Tony.
I noticed Nikki has the children's picture book. I'm wondering if anybody else has experience with self-publishing a picture book. Any comments or advice?
And if you do, you can put it in the chat or somehow discuss that. Okay. And Tony, you had your hand up.
Yeah, well, I was wondering, it sounds like a lot of people did the CreateSpace KDP thing. Was there anyone else, because I think maybe you just said that you worked with an individual or an outside group, because there's a couple of people here like Larry Carpenter and Catherine Ross and some others. Has anybody worked with been indie published by an actual organization and what their experience was.
Okay, does anybody have that information they want to share for 1 minute, or you can put it in the chat and Tony can see it there? Okay, shake your heads. Okay, all right. Self-publishing is a lot. It's a lot to consider. There are many aspects of it that can be very good, and then others, like having to pay for these things to bring out a quality self-published book, can be costly. So you have to weigh it. You have to ask yourself what is right. I just want to tell you an example of a guy that was in a writer's group. He self-published a book and he priced it at $19.99. And I wondered why he didn't have any sales and didn't have any reviews. And on top of that, it was very self-serving. So there really wasn't any takeaway for the reader. He turned around after 4 years. He turned around and priced it at $8 for the paperback and $2.99 for the ebook. And he finally got some sales and some reviews. So just be careful if you don't overprice what you're selling, because a lot of people won't plunk down that much for a book. Okay, so nobody really had too many questions. So let's try to go. Oh, yes, Louise. And then we're going to go into another area.
Okay. Do you know how much KDP pays per copy that they sell, either the ebook or the paperback? Do you know what percentage they pay the writer?
Well, on my books from KDP, I make about $250 to $350, depending on where they sell it. Like if they sell it overseas and it goes through United Kingdom, I might make less. If they sell it through their Amazon site, I might make a little bit more. So it kind of varies, right, ladies? Those of you who have.
Well, I've gotten some deposits for like $1 or less.
Oh, it can happen. It can definitely happen, Louise. It depends on where it's sold.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on to the royalty paying publishing, which I call the top of the mountain. And that was, so when we talked about somebody picking up a book, so Inspiring Voices for Charlie Bear was a self-publishing company. They're no longer in business, but they self-published it, and then Guidepost picked it up and published it. So they're the ones that paid me in advance and everything, which was cool. So I want people to share about royalty paying publishers, what I call the bigger companies. And we had Aud, Jennifer, Kelly, and Marty. So who would like to go first? Aud, your hand.
I'll go first. Yeah, I'll go
Thank
first.
you.
So my first book, here it is. It was when I was right before I got married. And this was, what had happened was I submitted it and they sent me a letter, said, we really like it, but we just got bought out by another company. So we don't know if when the dust settles, if they're going to want it or not. So if you want the manuscript back, you can. So it's one of those crazy things. So I waffled so long that by the time it came, they accepted it. And the thing that is interesting is, you're right, you have no say on what the cover looks like. The character was actually blonde with short hair. But at least they put a trumpet. It was about a trumpet player. The second book that I was published, I'll show, is I Almost Love You, Eddie Clegg. And I go by Audra Suplee instead of Aud. But what happened with that one was I had an agent. The agent would send me, and I would get rejected. So she just sent me these little notes. Oh, you're rejected here, rejected there. And she gave up on me. I Almost Love You, Eddie Clegg was at Peachtree Publishers. And they hadn't rejected me yet. So then I got almost like a 3-page single-spaced letter saying, we like a lot of this, but if you can change it and do all of these things, maybe we'll give you the time of day. So I said, all right, I'll go for it. So I made all these changes. Well, I take that back. I'm in the middle of making these changes, and that's when 9/11 happened. Well, how creative are you going to feel? And this is supposed to be a funny book. So I stumbled through it, and I sent it to them. And I got a phone call, and they said, well, you did what we asked, but it's missing something now, because we told you I had alcoholism in it, and they told me to take that out. I took it out, and then they said, well, now it's not as lively without the well, not lively, I don't know what, but anyway. So they said, what we're going to do is we're going to assign an editor to you from Peachtree, and you guys will work together on it. So we did. And they said, no, it's still no guarantees. So then I get a phone call from them and saying, yeah, we're going to buy it. And I said, wait, say that again, because I'm not sure I believe you. But anyway, yeah, so they did. Now, the one thing cool, well, first I should say, this one was only $1.95. And I saw it everywhere, because this was back in the 80s when that thing came out. So I would see it in a bookstore, and I'd go up to the counter and I'd say, hey, I wrote this book. Can I sign this book? And then they'd say, okay, sure. So then they'd order books, and then I'd sign it. And I did that with that one, because you're right. And I think you already mentioned that, BJ, is they don't really give you any kind of publicity. They gave me a one sheet, and that was all they gave me for standing ovation. I Almost Love You, Eddie Clegg, though, was really awesome, because they would say, hey, we're going to be doing this book, what was it called? Book Fest, I guess, in Chicago. Now, we can't pay you to get you out there, but if you can get there, you can do a signing. Well, I had a cousin who lived in Chicago, so I went out to Chicago and I did it. Then they said, hey, we're going to be in Orlando. Well, my sister lived in Florida at the time, so I went down there. Then they had, Amelia's Island. So I got to go, that one, that was cool, because they said, we'll put you up in a bed and breakfast. So that one they paid for I had to get down there. And so they were really, really good about, I had to pay some of it. But the only thing is, because it's hardback, it was $14.95. This one, I earned back I not only earned back my advance, but I also, producer bought the movie rights. So I got some money out of that. It never turned into a movie, but that was kind of cool. This one, there was a professor, a college professor, she wanted to use it in her class, but she said it's not paperback, it's too expensive. And it never sold enough for it to get to be paperback. Then the last one I wanted to say is, I did a novella, and this is a small publisher. But what had happened was, it's in an anthology, but it started out as an 80,000 word novel called Broken Soul to Broken Soul. And when I found out, that one of the guys in my critiquing group, he is a retired pastor, and he knew somebody that had a Christian publisher. And this is where I started heading toward Christian writing. And the guy was interested, but they're only publishing novellas. So I had to shrink it down to 43,000 words. And I did. But the problem was, he gave me some corrections to make, and he said, I really like it, but I can't guarantee, because it's one of those, is it too Christian for a secular market, or too secular for a Christian market? So I was like, oh, bugger. So I submitted it to another place called Running Wild Press, and they said yes first. And I kind of regret it, because it ended up in a book this size. I gave it to my husband for Christmas. He said, oh, you gave me a doorstop. So what I did, because my nephew writes, I want this thing to be made into a screenplay. I shrank it down. So I just have my story in here, and I'm going to send it to my nephew, because he writes screenplays. So one of these days, you're going to see it on TV.
That's awesome, Aude. Thank you for all of that information. You know what I'm finding is royalty publishers, or traditional publishers, or if you want to call them that, are a whole different animal, right? I mean, it's way different. And we have Jennifer, Kelly, and Marty that I'd like to share. And I want to ask those three of you if you will be in the next class. And if you are, raise your hand. Molly, will you be in the next class of ours coming up? Molly, yes. Okay, how about Kelly? Where are you, Kelly? Kelly. Oh, there. Will you be in the next class? Okay, how about Jennifer?
No.
Where are you, Jennifer? No? Okay.
Grandson.
Oh, the grandson's coming. Okay, so will you share now? And then could I ask, please, Molly and Marty, or Marty and Kelly, to please do the next class?
I won't be here next time, but it's fine. It's fine.
Oh.
You have enough people sharing, so you're good.
And then also the next class, we're going to talk about agenting a lot. So royalty publishers has a lot to do with agents too. So I want to go into that a lot more. So thank you too for doing it next. And Jennifer, let's take 4 or so minutes if you want to share now.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I can't hear you.
Okay,
Try again. Go ahead.
I went to a writers conference. This is
Okay.
in around 1983 or 4. I'm from California and I went to Forest Home. So they had Les Stobie and Norm Rohr and all
Yeah.
these, what you probably have heard of, all these wonderful people.
Mhm.
And so I went to the writers conference. I had a book proposal. I met with Les Stobie. He was interested. He's edited and he said, go back, make these changes and send it back. So 2 years later, I sent it back and they eventually Here's Life Publishers, which is no longer a publishing house. And I don't know, it wasn't huge then, but it was a very reputable Christian publisher. So they they published my book, Nice Girls Don't Get Raped. But if you look at the title, it says Nice Girls Do Get Raped. I had 27 rejections before it got published. So, and I got a $500 royalty, advance. And we're doing media back then. I was on the 700 Club. I was on radio stations all across the country, all kinds of TV interviews. And from all of that, jumping up to the early 90s, that led to me having my own talk radio show, two of them that I produced and hosted. I loved, that's when I had Liz Curtis Higgs on. And so that was, publishing was very different all those years ago. So here I am now, 76. That was in 1987 when my book came out. So here we are. I've written a column for the last 10 years and another column before that. And so now I'm jumping back into it, 76, and it is a whole new ball game. So this is all so exciting to be here and learning all of this with indie publishing and traditional publishing. And so I'm going to really start with the short stories since I'm jumping back in, and to build up my credibility, I guess, and just see what God does. But it was really, when they handed me this book, it was my baby, really. You know, I have this picture of me with the publisher. You'd have thought they'd handed me $1 million. So it's my one and only book. And talk about comparing. My friend, who I won't give her name, we went to the writers conference together. She is now on her 55th book, and I've published one. But our lives are completely different. I've had a lot of health issues and so forth and so on. So here I am now, sitting at the feet of Jesus to see what is next. And I'm just thank you so much.
Well, thank you for sharing, Jennifer. That was beautiful. And I know there are a lot of stories about the way publishing was in the good old days and how things have changed today. It's a big part of our lives that we have to roll and be flexible and, you know, go with what's happening in the publishing world. And things are a lot different out there. What I'd like to do now is, we have less, or right around 10 minutes, but I don't want to take that long, 5 or so minutes, and just answer any questions. Let's just do on topics that could be handled in a minute or two, and then we'll stop and we'll gather together at what time? 1 o'clock? 3 o'clock, right? 3 o'clock today, 3:05. Is that right, Marty? The next session, it's a little bit
I thought
different
it was
time.
4, but I could I'll
It's
check the schedule right now, because I
check
have
your schedule. It's a 3:05 class for an hour and 15 minutes. So it goes from 3:05 to 4:15. So it's a little bit different timing for the last class. Beth, do you have a question, or go ahead?
The question I had was that PMS, the PMS is My Life book, is a collection of funny stories from my life. It spans my life. It speculates on, you know, like being a grandmother, which I'm not. And I told my kids I better not be anytime soon. But I speculate, like, you know, the funny aspects of, you know, being the ornery grandma versus the cool grandma, you know, that kind of thing. It's got poetry. It's got like mishmashes of different things. It would be listed as what? Because it's a memoir, but it doesn't, the time span is lifetime, which is an autobiography. I'm not famous in any way, but the stories are funny. So it's kind of like neither fish nor fowl. I always seem to wind up in this neither fish or fowl territory. So I don't know really what to call it.
Okay, I have something I can share with you, but Dale has her hand up. So Dale, unmute yourself and tell us what you'd like to say, please. Dale? Okay, Dale.
I have the same thing. My life is filled with miracles, one on top of another, on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. And the story is, my life story is written for you. I want to encourage you to believe in miracles, to believe that God loves you and is with you in both joyous times and hard to face times. You can have a life conversation with God too. The title of the book is My Life, A Conversation with God.
Okay. So it sounds like, okay, we're getting real close to ending. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it sounds like if you're unsure what to categorize your book as for like sales on Amazon, in the next class, I have categories that are, it's kind of cool to see where you think you are categorized and where you fall, what you could call your book. In fact, I just went on the Charlie Bear book and realized books like Charlie Bear are categorized differently than Charlie Bear is. So I need to do a little work on recategorizing that book. So we are all learning at all times. And one of the things we'll do in the next class is talk about the categories and a lot about agenting and big paying publishing houses again, and how you can we're going to talk about how to get an agent, what to look for, what not, etc. So I hope you all join me there. I'm going to make sure I save my chat and so I can respond to anybody that needs something. But I want to thank you all for coming to our first class today. And don't forget, it's a little bit earlier this afternoon.
It's at 3:15. 3:15. What you said before.
Wait, did they change it?
I have
it says 3:05.
I have 3:05.
Oh, well, they don't have it on the main session at all. I went back to the original schedule, so maybe the original schedule is wrong. They don't have it on the dashboard.
The website is wrong. The website is wrong. So on the dashboard, yeah.
Oh, now I see it.
3:05.
3:05. 3:05.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I get fired. I'm fired, so I won't be back next time because I'm fired.
So it's only from 3:05 to 4:15. So it's a little bit shorter. We're going to get everything in though, and I can't wait to see you all again at that time. So I'm going to end just a few minutes early. Thank you all for being here, and have a wonderful next hour or 2 or 3 or whatever. And we'll see you soon.
Thank
okay,
you.
Thanks. And those
Thank
who
you.
shared, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, BJ.
Thank you.
Thank you, BJ.
Copy my chat one more time.
I hate missing it.
Just so I don't miss
Yeah,
anything.
congratulations on your grandson, Jennifer. We'll be praying everything goes well.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. He's from
That's
Montana. I haven't seen him in 18 months.
Aw, that's
And
so
he's-
sweet.
He's going to be in this area. And I hate that it's a conflict today of all days. Because
That happens.
But
I
so
understand.
I could go back online and get that next seminar. And how do we go in and do that? Because they said it's available for 2 months. Do we just go to the dashboard and?
I would think so.
Okay.
I would
well,
think
thank-
they'd be putting everything on there. Right, Barb?
And
Marty?
it's Marlene. She'll send like 10 emails telling you how to do it. So
Okay, thank
It'll
you.
either be on Opio or the website. I'm not sure, but I'll find that out before the next session.
Thank you. God bless all of you. It's been so
Fabulous.
wonderful.
It
Wonderful.
Thank
has
you
been
so much.
wonderful. We'll see you guys all later.
thank
Okay,
you
except
again.
Jennifer.
And
Okay,
BJ,
bye.
2
Yeah.
o'clock with our first sheet.
I'm sorry?
2 o'clock with our first page of the.
Yeah, if you set an appointment with me, yes. Uh-huh. I'll see you then. Julie, yeah. We'll see you there.
Thank you.
Okay, see y'all in a bit.
Bye. Thanks
Bye.
again. Bye-bye.